Hi, welcome to the 15th episode of The Teacher's Promise. I'm Brett Hansen, and I'm extremely grateful to be able to celebrate, inspire, and nurture educators around the world by spreading the word about important and wonderful teachers. These extraordinary, dedicated, compassionate people have inspired me to dig a little deeper, to share more great stories. So I've reached out to some of the best teachers in Illinois through the Golden Apple Award program. This week, Phil Culcasi explains the program and how he got involved with it. I hope to share more of their stories, but there's a reason they won this award. They work hard, which means they're busy. Hopefully you'll hear from some more of them soon, and I'll do my best to connect with them. As one of the 10 winners this year, Phil exemplifies everything the Golden Apple Award strives to honor in teachers. But there's really no need for me to say any more. Let's hear about it from Phil. So it's my pleasure today to welcome on the show Phil Culcasi, an Apple Award winner and an extraordinarily excellent teacher from Wheaton Warrenville South High School in Wheaton, Illinois, a great community about 20 miles west of Chicago. Welcome to the show, Phil. How you doing?
I'm great, Brett. How are you today?
I'm good. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'm sure you're a busy man with all your Apple Award responsibilities. And
Well, we're lucky enough this week. We have the entire week off at Thanksgiving, so I'm not as busy as normal today.
Yeah. And as a coach, you got that going too. We do too. So it's worked out nicely. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and the school where you teach and why you became a teacher?
Sure. Well, I teach at Wheaton Warrenville South High School in Wheaton, Illinois, as you mentioned. I've been at Wheaton Warrenville South for 21 years. This is my 25th year as a high school teacher. I've taught math and physics and chemistry at all levels. This year, I have 2 classes of sophomores with a co-teacher. My first year of teaching was in 1996 in Lawrence, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston. I taught there for a year. Then we moved back to Chicago, which is where I'm from, my wife and I taught for a couple years at a school in Lombard, Illinois. And then for the last 21 years, I've been at Wheaton Warrenville South. I did not study education, as most of my students can probably tell, in college, and I never really thought much about being a high school teacher until I was actually doing it. So it was never my intention to be a high school teacher.
So were you able to jump right into the education profession in Massachusetts without a certification?
I taught at a couple private schools without a certificate, and then when we moved back to Chicago, I went back at night to get my teaching license for the state of Illinois.
Yeah. Nowadays, you could probably get a job without having to do that and then do it during, since the schools are in such need of especially somebody with math, physics, and chemistry skills.
True enough, yes. I look at a lot of resumes, and our database used to have 200 applicants for open jobs, and now it's down to about 20 or 30. So that is definitely the case.
Yeah, I teach in a rural district, and unfortunately a bit of a low-paying rural district, and we will sometimes get 2-3 applicants for a position. It's tough.
Wow.
But they're lucky to have you, so I'm glad to hear that. So you won an Apple Award. Was that this year?
It was last spring, yes.
Last spring, yeah. So how does that process work? How did your students nominate you? Did your parents nominate you?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. So the Golden Apple Foundation was founded, I'll probably get the date wrong, but I think it's at least 20 or 30 years ago, more than that actually. And their mission was to identify teachers in the state of Illinois, at first in the Chicago area, and support excellent teaching in the city, and then also to inspire young people to become teachers. So that's the mission of the Golden Apple Foundation in the state of Illinois. And I was lucky enough to take physics from a gentleman by the name of Jim Stankiewicz, who taught physics at Marist High School in Chicago and then at Wheaton Warrenville South in Wheaton for 42 years. And he won the Golden Apple in the mid-90s. And I believe, I'm not sure, I can't prove it, but I believe that Mr. Stankiewicz is the one who nominated me last winter for the Golden Apple Award. I received notice from the foundation right around winter break, so late December, early January, that I had been nominated. And so then that involved sending in a video of one of my classes, writing a couple essays, gathering some recommendation letters, and so on. And then after that, nothing really happened for a few months. And I think about in March or so, I heard from the foundation that they had picked 30 finalists in the state of Illinois from 30 different high schools, because this cycle was for high school teachers. They're on a 3-year cycle with K-5 teachers and then middle school teachers and high school teachers. And as one of the 30 finalists, they came to visit our school. So 2 representatives from the foundation came to our school. They observed an entire one of our classes. Then they talk to kids, they talk to parents, they talk to administrators, they talk to teachers. They pretty much talk to everyone but me. And that was a full day. I think it was in April, a little bit after spring break. And then from those 30 finalists, they visit 10 schools once again with surprise announcements. And they sure surprised me pretty good at the end of last school year. They packed all of the students into the gym, and they surprised me with a visit from the foundation. So it was a little overwhelming, to be sure.
Yeah, I watched some of those videos. It's a great experience to watch the joy, both for the educators and for the teachers. But when I went to look, I didn't see a link for yours.
Oh, the video's out there. They told me that the video's been watched a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I I think it was a lot more fun for the people who got to watch than for me, because it was a little bit overwhelming and humbling and nerve-wracking to speak in front of the entire school when I was surprised like that. So
Well,
yeah, and what was really special about it was the first time that we as a school had been all together in the same room since the start of the pandemic. So,
yeah.
the last time we were all together in the gym was homecoming of 2019. And then we hadn't been all together in the gym again until May of 2022. It was a really nice moment for our school and
Yeah.
really embarrassing for me.
Well, like a breath of fresh air to get everybody together again. That's great. And just so you know, you'll be embarrassed a little more because we'll make sure we get that link into the show notes so people can and enjoy that experience with you as well. And I'm sorry I couldn't find it. I didn't see it on the
Let's just
first
say
page. I just went,
there were indoor fireworks, which surprised me as well too.
oh wow.
Our principal Scott McDermott was somehow able to get indoor fireworks into the building and surprise all of us with that too.
Wow,
So
but
that
that
was
was
great.
fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, Scott McDermott. Is that what you said his name was?
Yes.
Yeah, good job, Scott. Thanks, Scott, for getting that going. So, obviously, you are an extraordinarily good teacher, and people, your students, the parents, your mentors, and your fellow teachers know this. Could you tell us a little bit about the role of compassion in a science class for you? How does compassion play a part when you're, trying so hard to get kids to learn these very difficult concepts?
Well, a really interesting question, and it's not something that necessarily we think about on a day to day, as busy as you are in the high school, and it's certainly not something that, going back when you earn your teaching certificate, that your professors talk about or things like that. But I'll give you an example, or a way I think about it. So I had mentioned Mr. Stankovich, Jim, who was my physics teacher in high school, and then through a roundabout way, we ended up working together for almost 20 years at Wheaton Warrenville South. And what was so special about Jim is that Jim, halfway through his teaching, halfway through his teaching career, he decided to change the way he taught from a more lecture demonstration based science instruction to a more student centered constructivist classroom called modeling instruction. And modeling instruction is a way of teaching science that originated in Arizona back in the late 80s, early 90s, where a couple of science teachers weren't happy with the way that they were teaching their students. And so they started working with some professors at Arizona State University and came up with a method of teaching that's more Socratic dialogue driven, more lab driven, more paradigm based approach to teaching science rather than the way I learned science, which was just sit in the back of the room and take as many notes as I could and try not to say anything. And so, when I watch Jim teach, because I learned from him when he was still lecturing and demoing. And then when I came to Wheaton South and kids were in groups, kids were using whiteboards to solve problems together in a collaborative environment. Uh, kids were presenting their solutions in front of the classroom. And I was just sort of floored by this. And I said to Jim, you have to teach me how to teach this way. And so that's evolved at our school over the last 20 years, where now we have people come to our school in the summer to teach them how we teach this modeling instruction. But anyway, long story short, one of Jim's true geniuses, beside being the best teacher I ever had and one of the smartest people I've ever met, Jim's true talent was that he never made a student or a teacher feel bad about asking a question. And I think that's where his compassion for students and their learning process really sort of reflected on all of us who work at Wheaton Warrenville South. And so I think that's something that we try to set up from the very first day in our science classes at South is we want kids to feel comfortable in our classrooms. We want kids to look forward to coming to our classes, even though they might not necessarily like physics or chemistry or biology. Like, oh, hey, I really like going to Mr. C's class. Why? Well, because he's nice, or because he doesn't make me feel bad if I ask a question, or he doesn't make me feel bad if I make a mistake. And we all try to learn together. Uh, and so that's what I really learned from Jim is that I try really hard never ever to make a student feel bad for asking a question. And once we have that down, once we have that sort of collaborative community environment where kids feel safe and kids look forward to coming to class, I think we can get some learning done. I think we can get some chemistry or some physics or some math or those subjects that you hear adults say, oh, I was never good at that, right? Or, oh, I wish I was in this class when I was a student. And that's what we're really striving for at our school, if that makes sense.
It does, and it sounds like a great goal. I just last week, one of my students, who I think she likes coming to my class. Not all my students do, but I'm trying. But she made a comment about chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
and it was not. I don't think I'm not suggesting at all it's the teacher's fault, but she struggles with chemistry, and I think that kind of perspective would help her enormously. So it sounds like Jim has taught you a lot of wonderful things, and I'm glad to hear that it is continuing to evolve at your school. That's great.
Well, what I like when I hear students talking in the hallways or talking before class is I like when I hear students say, "I like this class, but I don't really like chemistry that much." Because if they like the class, then I feel like we can teach them some chemistry.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea. So, not necessarily for chemistry teachers or
Mm-hmm.
physics teachers, what advice would you give to young teachers, especially maybe people who are in college who are considering becoming a teacher? What advice would you give them, and why should people become teachers nowadays?
Well, that's a great question, and something that I really am focused on right now. I have about 10 years left of teaching, and one of the ideas, thoughts, worries that crosses my mind constantly is, who's going to be us in the next 10 years? Who's going to be doing the great work that you do, going out and interviewing teachers and talking about the profession? Who's going to be working hard in the classrooms in the next 10 years? And so one of my goals for the next 10 years is to encourage young people to really think about becoming part of this profession. And so, what I tell young people and what I tell young teachers about the job, and I hope that they see that in how we run things in our school and in our department, is it's really, really fun. We have a lot of fun at our school. We laugh almost every single day. That's not to say it's not without our share of tears and our share of anger and our share of disappointment. But we have a great time every single day, and I look forward to coming to work every day, which I'm not sure is true about necessarily every profession these days. But what I also tell young people is it's very, very hard work, and you have to put in the time, and you have to put in the time outside of school and in the summer to get really, really good at what you're doing. Uh, but if you like helping children of any age, from kindergarten through seniors in high school, uh, and you like the material that you're working with, if you're an English person or a history person or a chemistry person, if you like kids and you like the material, you're going to have a great time doing this job because it's so much fun. And we do laugh on a daily basis in our department and in our school.
Yeah. Yeah, that having fun is an important part of it. And, nowadays in education, it's essential that we, um, considering how difficult it is to get people to come into the profession, we really do need to emphasize those positive aspects. What I tell people whenever I get a chance is that although there are a lot of difficulties and apparent, um, hindrances, the most important thing for me is that I get to serve people, and in that process, I become a better person. I like to have fun. I truly care about students, but one of the things I've realized, and I try to talk about a lot in the Teacher's Promise, the book and the program and everything,
Mm-hmm.
is that I've become a better person the longer I've stayed in teaching.
Oh,
So
there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
yeah,
And what I really enjoy about, especially the high school environment, is I get to meet kids that are talented songwriters or talented artists or talented at speech or talented musicians or talented athletes or wonderful creative people. The range of students that you get to meet is so overwhelming. It's so awesome that I get to meet kids who are into so many different um, they're just so talented, I guess is probably the best way to put it. And it's overwhelming to me at times, the quality of young people that I get to meet every single day. And like you said, we as adults get just as much out of it as the kids do. And I think that's why we look forward to coming to school and coming to class, even on the hard days, is because we're going to get a little bit out of it. And hopefully the kids do too.
yeah, yeah, I agree. So, one of the things I love to ask people is to share a funny story. There are all kinds of entertaining situations and anecdotes as teachers, especially for the teachers who, relate and connect with the younger kids. But in the world of science, can you share with us a funny story?
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking about one that just happened, oh, probably earlier in the school year, maybe September or October, and the kids were just getting to know me, and I was just getting to know them, and we were having a discussion. I forget what it was about. Maybe it was unit one, so we are probably still talking about mass, volume, and density, and we are having this discussion. And so one of the things you learn as a modeling instructor is to ask questions of the kids, and more open-ended questions. And I think I asked Oscar, I said, if we do this, do you think the density of this object will go up or down or stay the same? So it's kind of like a multiple choice question, but we'll always follow it up with why. And um, he answered, and he was so sure of himself that the density was going to go up. And most of the class knew that Oscar was incorrect, but he had this big smile on his face. And I said, are you sure? Are you sure that the density will go up? And he goes, I'm positive. And so, we all started, smiling because he was smiling so much. And I said, do you want to bet on it? And he said, of course, Mr. C, I will bet you $10,000 that the density will go up. And I said, I will take that bet. And all the kids are yelling, don't bet him, Oscar. Don't bet him. Don't bet him. And he said, no, no, I'm betting $10,000. And so, and of course, the density didn't go up. The density went down because we did a demonstration to prove it. And so then the kids were saying, Oscar, you owe Mr. C $10,000. Right, right, right. I said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Oscar, but you do owe me $10,000. And so the next day he comes in, and he had gone into, like, the board game Life or whatever, and he
Yeah.
had one at home, and he found the $10,000 bill. And so he came into class and he goes, "Mr. C, I have your money." And he slapped it down on my desk, a $10,000 bill. And we were also laughing so much. And it just made me laugh so much. And so I had the young man, I go, "You need to sign this." So I made him sign the back of that $10,000 bill. And then I hung it up in my office. And I think I'm going to have that there forever, because it just it reminds me of the good times we have in class, while still getting, like I said before, while still getting some learning done.
Yeah, Oscar sounds like he'd be a perfect candidate for forensics, or a great person to be in in my class, messing around with some creative writing and stuff. That sounds great. Good job, Oscar. Maybe you can snap a quick photo of that, and we'll throw that in the show notes too. I think people would love to see Oscar's signature, and then you can tell him that he's famous, that he's on
That's
the
right.
internet and all that.
It was worth his $10,000.
It was, yeah, that's
That's
great.
right.
So, I know that you're a coach, and
Hmm.
often the dynamic between an educator and students is a little different with coaching. Can you tell us how, if it's any different, or do you approach everything the same way? What role does coaching have in your life as an educator?
Well, it's a funny story, because if you ever met me in person, I wouldn't strike you as a basketball person, because I'm 5'8" on a good day. And you know, I played intramural basketball, and that was about it. And, sometimes in high schools in the Chicago area, a lot of the coaches are college athletes and things like that. So going back to when I taught in Boston, I got called to the principal's office in October of my very first year. Only been teaching for about 8 weeks. I didn't have a teaching certificate, and I thought I was about to be fired. "Mr. Culcasi, please report to the principal's office after school." And so I go into the principal's office, and he goes, "Mr. Culcasi, sit down." And I go, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "What is this?" And he's pointing to a basketball, and I thought it was a trick question. I go, "That's a basketball." And he goes, "Good, you're the freshman girls coach." And I go, "What?" I go, "You realize I haven't played since 8th grade, and I played intramurals." And he goes, "I don't care. You seem to be good with kids and know a little bit about sports, so you're coaching the freshman girls team." And so that was, in 1996. And this year at Wheaton Warrenville South will be my 21st straight year of being the assistant varsity coach at Wheaton Warrenville South. And that's sort of how it happened. Um, and I try to jokingly walk away every year, but the head coach, he won't let me. I kind of joke that, it's like a tractor beam. And so it's brought a lot of good memories. It's brought a lot of good times, a lot of sad times, the ups and downs of high school athletics. But what I tell new teachers about that is, it's really, really important to get involved in the building with whatever you enjoy. And so, if you enjoy speech or chess or music or sports or track or running or whatever it is, to get involved after school, because it really helps with your classes. And it seems counterintuitive, but once kids see you in the gym or in the music room or at speech practice or at the art fair or whatever it is, they sort of have this different view of you, that is almost like, "Oh, you really do care about our school and our school community, and you really do care about kids after school. And so maybe I'll pay a little more attention in your class, or maybe I won't, step out of line in your class," that sort of thing. It really does help new teachers with classroom management, to be involved with the building outside of the school day. And so as a department chair, I really encourage teachers in my department to be involved after school, uh, every day. It does take a lot of time, and it does take a lot of time away from your family. And I'm lucky, and our head coach is lucky that we have families that understand that. But it's been a lifetime worth of memories, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't coached for a long time, but my favorite year was one year when I coached ninth grade girls basketball, and they were not very good. They worked really hard. They were happy to have a chance to play, and we had a great year. It was a lot of fun, a really monumental year for me. So I'm glad to hear that things have gone well for you. So, to wrap up, why don't you just tell us anything that you'd like to share that maybe we didn't discuss, or what's next for you in your future as a teacher?
Well, first of all, Brett, thank you so much for putting in all this hard work to get the message out about teachers in our community and in your community. I think it means a lot. What I tell young people who are thinking about teaching is, you know, the easiest way to think about it is, if you're ever lucky enough to have kids, wouldn't you want your kids to have a great teacher? And the answer is always yes, right? You want your kids to have great teachers. So who's going to do it? And I think we have to do it, and we have to find kids that want to do it, and then we have to support them and show them that this can be a really, really fun way to make a living. Although, like I said before, it's also pretty tough. Uh, but we talk teaching and learning in the summer here in Wheaton, and we can help young teachers of any discipline really be involved with learning how to become a teacher. One of the greatest privileges I've had in the past year, in fact, ever, as part of teaching, is I was invited to be part of the Golden Apple Scholars Summer Institute. And what that entails is, the Golden Apple Foundation, they award scholarships to young people who want to teach in schools of need in the state of Illinois. So teachers can earn, young college students actually can earn up to $25,000 in tuition assistance for their college education if they go to school in Illinois, and if they are willing to teach for 5 years in a school of need. And as part of that, they have these summer institutes. And the summer institutes are 3 weeks long at colleges throughout the state of Illinois. I was lucky enough to work at the North Central Scholar Institute last summer. And it's 3 weeks where students live in the dorms. And in the mornings, they go visit and observe at schools that are holding summer school sessions. And then they come back in the afternoon and they have workshops about teaching and learning, guest speakers, group activities, mini classes. And then they have these reflective seminars, of which I was lucky enough to be a leader last summer. And so I had 10 students, 10 college sophomores, they are now, who are thinking about being teachers and had committed to teaching in schools of need in the state of Illinois. So they went to observe in the morning, and then they had lunch, and then we talked for 90 minutes in a reflective situation about what they saw and what they had questions about and what they had concerns about. And it really, really was one of the best things I've ever done in education, to talk about teaching and learning with these young people who really want to be teachers of all disciplines. I had elementary, special ed, I had high school math, high school social studies, students who wanted to be coaches, students who wanted to be theater producers in high school. And the more we can get kids involved in programs like that, I really want to get the word out about it. So the Golden Apple Scholars Institute in the state of Illinois was one of the best things that I've ever done, and hopefully I get to do it again this summer.
Well, it sounds like you probably will, considering how enthusiastic you are about it. And I'll do my best to try to spread the word. I'll look into also whether or not we have something like that in Wisconsin. But I'm not sure, but I'm going to find out. So thank you, Phil. When we get to the end of every episode, it's my favorite part, my opportunity to thank the educator. And man, I got a long list here. I want to, I want to thank you for 25 years as a teacher. And I want to thank you for bringing up Mr. Stankovitz. Did I say that right?
Yep, sure
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, Mr. Stankovitz sounds like a spectacular person. I'd love to get him on the show, but maybe he won't want to since he's retired.
I can get you his number.
Okay, yeah, we'll see if we can get him on here. The problem is he'll probably just say all kinds of nice things about you for a half an hour, but that's okay, because you really talked up him. He sounds like an excellent teacher. I'm glad he introduced the modeling instruction. It sounds great. I want to thank you for tackling the difficult challenge of teaching our young people math, physics, and chemistry, and making it fun and dynamic and making sure they feel valued and respected in the classroom. We have to do that as educators. Thank you for mentoring young teachers and for coaching for 21 years. It sounds like you're a an extraordinary asset to your coaching program and to your school, and the kids really, really must see how much you care about them from that. And thank you for participating in the Golden Apple Scholars Program. It sounds wonderful. I'll be really amazed if they don't call you back next year. And congratulations on being a Golden Apple Award winner. It just sounds like you're a spectacular teacher, and I'm honored to have had you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you so much.
Yep. Well, thanks again for joining us and believing that all children are our children and that all kids deserve our intelligent compassion. Next week, I'll be sharing the first of many Funny Teacher Stories episodes, compilations of hilarious misunderstandings, unpredictable chaos, and funny bits from the teachers we've heard from already. Some of them only classroom teachers can really understand, so make sure you come back and tell your friends. Finally, always remember that you must take care of yourself in order to take care of others. So please join the Teacher's Promise Facebook group. And if times get a little bit tough or things get a little bit rough, give yourself a break. You deserve it. Until next time, thanks again for being an educator.